Hey, good evening, everyone. If you're tuning in today, you have just clicked on the mega signing episode of the National Football League. I am Ace. I'm joined here today by Jay and Andrew. What's going on, folks?
How we doing, guys? A lot of big
Hi
news out
guys,
today.
welcome.
Uh, it is St. Patrick's Day. We are not, I don't think any of us are wearing green. Go figure.
Pitch myself.
Yeah, I'll pinch myself too. But thanks for tuning in. If you this is your first time tuning in, we are the AJA Sports Show, covering sports of every kind. Today just so happens to be the most newsworthy of stuff, so it's the NFL. Just this last second, Patrick Peterson signed with the Vikings, as told to us by Adam Schefter. So while we're building our show around the transactions. If we have something happen, we're kind of monitoring our Twitter feeds. If you've been paying attention on our Instagrams and Twitters too, we've been the Twitters. We've been just dropping lots of signings and retweeting some of the news that's coming in. So a lot of stuff to wrap your head around. Some teams have been super active, some not so much. We'll kind of focus on the super interesting picks. You know where to find us. We are always at AJA Sports Show. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
So we had another one. Just real quick, we had another one. Apparently, the Raiders are sending Gabe Jackson to Seattle for a 21 draft pick, 2021 fifth-round draft pick.
Wow, so Patrick Peterson to the Vikings and Gabe Jackson getting traded. He was potentially, Oakland Raiders lineman was potentially going to get cut earlier today, and our the website we're using actually shows him as being cut. So a lot of things shift, and yeah, we'll talk about what that means for Oakland when we get there. Hello, Elizabeth. Thanks for tuning in.
Lord Lizzie,
we appreciate you. OG number one.
you know it.
So let's pull up the screen here and we can kind of get underway. So the Arizona Cardinals, they finished last season. They missed the playoffs. Kyler Murray was injured. They had that win it game against the Rams to see if they could make it the playoffs, and it was just a sloppy game from both teams. So far this year, they made the splash a little earlier, but J.J. Watt is huge for their defense. They re-signed some players that were already on the team, so that's Robert Alford, Marcus Golden, Andy Lee, Tanner Vallejo, Kelvin Beachum, as you can see on the screen. Cut their kicker, Zane Gonzalez, and I believe they signed Matt Prater today, if I remember that correctly, which is not on the screen. And then traded for Vegas's Rodney Hudson, which was probably worth the third-round pick to protect Kyler. And also today they signed AJ Green to a one-year deal, which gives them a lot of depth on the in their wide receiver core. What are you guys thinking about Arizona?
Yeah, so they solidified their pass rush, obviously, by going and get J.J. Watt. That was a little earlier signing from a few weeks ago. Chandler Jones was hurt last year, so he'll be back. They were actually fourth in the league in sacks last year with 48 sacks. A big reason of that, it was Hassan Reddick. He's actually not going to be back with Arizona. He signed with Carolina. We'll get into a little bit more of his impact going a little more into it when we get to the Carolina section. So the main thing here is the fact that they literally stole Rodney Hudson from the Raiders. I don't understand how that happened. They got a 7th-round pick in return and traded a 3rd to get Rodney Hudson and a 7th-round pick in compensation. Rodney Hudson since 2015 is the highest graded center, according to PFF, in pass blocking at a 93.6 clip. He played for the Chiefs for a while. Just a solid interior defensive lineman. Literally exactly what you're looking for with Kyler Murray, especially when they have DJ Humphries and Kelvin Beachum bookending the offensive line. So this is some pretty good moves from the Arizona Cardinals, and they kind of had to do it, right? When you look at their division, probably the toughest division in the National Football League right now. So good moves, big moves, and I think they were warranted.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, definitely need protection in the division. In the NFC West. Oh, sorry, was that muted?
Oh, you're good.
Definitely needed like as much protection as possible for Kyler. They started hot last year, so they definitely have potential to be a perennial playoff team with Kyler under center and Cliff Kingsbury running the show over there. Don't know what happened after that the win against your Buffalo Bills. After the Hail Murray, they kind of just tailed off. They finished the season. They finished the season 2-5. So they probably want to get back on track next season and hope. And like you said, playing in a tougher division. And we mentioned it in a show previously, but Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt have the most sacks in the NFL since 2011. Chandler Jones with 97.5 and J.J. with 95.5. So it's going to be – they're both over 30, so you're going to get the production quick. I don't know how long it's going to last, but for the short term right now, that's just what they needed, being in that division that they're in. So great move by Arizona.
Strike while the iron is hot. I mean, Seattle's looking like they're possibly going to be a little dysfunctional next year. So, yeah, this might Rams got a new quarterback. Obviously, Matt Stafford is nothing to joke about. But, hey, the other teams might be a little fluctuating, and this might be the chance for them to make the playoffs and make a run at something. I will move on to the Atlanta Falcons. So not much here. Just going to read it off. They cut Alan Bailey, an edge defender, linebacker, defensive end, and then cut Ricardo Allen. The only thing that was newsworthy was they traded for Lee Smith, who is a Buffalo Bills third-string tight end who plays offensive tackle on some goal line plays. So nothing really there for Atlanta. I guess they're in rebuild mode for what it's worth. So I don't know. They haven't really made any splashes just quite yet.
And I don't expect them to. They're probably going to have to figure out a way to get off of Matt Ryan eventually, and some people are saying Justin Fields. So probably going to be quiet in free agency and maybe sit on some draft picks here. But
their cap space scenario is terrible, and Matt Ryan is still playing Matt Ryan's not the problem. Literally everything else is the problem. So yeah, we can go to Baltimore because they're not really doing anything that's really too noteworthy over there at Atlanta right now.
Absolutely. So Baltimore signed Zietler for a 3-year deal, re-signed Justin Ellis on their D-line, got Tyus Bowser back on a pretty cheap deal, and re-signed Derek Wolfe. So not much big splashes from Baltimore. 3 returning players. Probably took some team-friendly deals to get to come back to play with the Ravens. We know that they hit some peaks last year. They also had some down games, and so they're a team that maybe with in the right scenario can push for a title, can also be bounced in the first round or not even make the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I think the Zeitler signing was absolutely huge for them. 3 years, $22 million. That's really cheap. He's the 8th ranked right guard on PFF over the last 2 seasons. Their offensive line was phenomenal 2 years ago, one of the best in the league. And then Ronnie Stanley was injured last year. Orlando Brown missed a little bit of time. So they're a team that, once you get, now that they got Kevin Zeitler in there to protect Lamar Jackson, that was a big signing for them. I think it was a really good signing for them, and they'll see a jump in that offensive line production coming into next year. Get a number 1 receiver, please. We've talked about this before. Kenny Galladay's out there. Will Fuller's out there. These are guys that play on the edge. Put Hollywood Brown in the slot and get someone to play on the flipping edge. I know that Lamar is not the best thrower of the football, but if you don't even have somebody to – last year, Des Bryant, I think, ran the most routes out wide besides Hollywood Brown. Des Bryant. This is not okay. This is not okay for a quarterback of Lamar Jackson's caliber to have this little weapons. It's literally Mark Andrews or Hollywood Brown or Lamar Jackson running. That's literally all you have to worry. And I guess now, you keep a J.K. Dobbins in there. But
yeah, there's always that surround your best weapon with more weapons. Obviously, they have the philosophy to run it down your throat, and awesome, good for them. They'll do that regardless. But yeah, you still got to make sure a team is scared. Kenny Galladay is rumored to go elsewhere, but we haven't really heard much about Will Fuller on the market. Juju Smith-Schuster taking a deal there too, possibly. But yeah, if this would be, you would think this would be the moment for them to maybe try to make a run at it, right? You have Lamar in his prime. If this isn't the time to make a run at it, I don't know what you're going to do, Baltimore. They're not deprived of championship winning football, but yeah, it would be a waste to see them not be successful with Lamar behind the helm.
The one thing I wanted to mention is Orlando Brown on the offensive line is, looking for a trade right now. As I don't, there hasn't been any like recent news on him or where he's planning on going or teams interested. But from what I understand, he's just not happy playing the right tackle position, which is what he did a lot, filling in for Ronnie Stanley. And he's a true left tackle. He came out of Oklahoma as one of the top-rated tackles and wants to find a team. So be on the lookout for where he's going to go, or if maybe somehow Baltimore convinces him to stay. And they did a really good job of shoring up the rest of their defensive line, but they did lose Matt Judon, which I think might be something that they're going to have to address maybe in the draft. And we'll talk about Matt Judon a little bit when we get to New England. But yeah, Baltimore, I like Lamar, and they made a couple good moves so far. I expect more to come.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they do a great job drafting front seven defensive players. Sorry to jump in again. I know there's a lot of stuff to cover, but they do a great job drafting front seven players. And if there's any front office that's going to be able to retain a guy who's, for some reason not happy, I mean, he's literally just playing a little bit out of the position right now, and that's the biggest gripe. Ronnie Stanley's going to come back and fill that right tackle position. Orlando Brown is going to slide back to left tackle. That's exactly what I would tell him if I'm John Harbaugh over there. So,
yeah, absolutely. So we're going on to Brandon Beane's Buffalo Bills, GM for the Buffalo Bills, making some good moves so far, re-signing 3 really valuable players from last year. So Matt Milano was injured for a few games last year, but the Bills were like mega successful with him playing. Darrell Williams coming in cheap, 3 years, $28 million. You can't get a tackle that played up to his par last year for that cheap. And then Feliciano, he's Josh Allen's just boy. He like his dog, so to speak. So and they got them there for a cheap deal too. They restructured a few contracts because they had some cap space, but not a lot. They need some, to be able to make some moves in free agency and signing their draft picks this year. Quentin Jefferson and John Brown were both cut a few days ago. Today, Emmanuel Sanders' deal was made official, so kind of subbing Sanders for John Brown, which is which is a nice move. John Brown was injured last season, so Emmanuel Sanders will fit right in with Josh Allen's rocket man arm. And as we kind of spoke about with Atlanta, trading Lee Smith for a 7th round pick, so nothing wrong with getting some extra draft capital. This is the way. Yeah.
No biases on the show or anything, but Ace, you are a resident Buffalo Bill. You want to give your takes on the signings here? What do you think about Matt Milano and Darrell Williams and stuff?
Yeah, just super happy with everything. The Milano on our defense is just more intangibles than not. Strong player that I've said before can play on all 3 levels. So really happy to see him coming back and hopefully having a healthy season next year. Darrell Williams, I've mentioned this too, but he had a game against TJ Watt last year that always just sticks out to me. And if that's the level he can get to in his career, then that might be a steal of tackles getting, oh my gosh, linemen getting like $100+ million, like to get him for like a quarter of that price is nuts. And Feliciano, like he's a hometown favorite. Everybody loves. We call him Mongo, and yeah. So I mean, he, if you watch the Bills' last game where they were getting a little scrappy, or last couple of games where they kind of got a little scrappy, Feliciano was in there and making sure to protect Josh Allen at all costs, which is what we need. Josh Allen is in his 4th year needs that help. Someone not on here, which we've been kind of been tied to getting Zach Ertz from Philadelphia, and my take on that is like I'll bring him in. Like we do have a space on the roster for a tight end, but someone who I think might he's on our roster right now and he might not be getting like credibility is Dawson Knox. He actually isn't a tight end, so like this is a position change for him. So they kind of say like it takes a few years for you to like kind of really get into your stride, and so I could see like if you watched Buffalo Bills games highlights last year, you saw Dawson Knox catching like some silly passes from Josh Allen in the end zone. So I could see that developing even more next year, and then potentially actually seeing him being a reliable tight end. So hopefully, I am hoping if he does make that move, we don't spend extra money on a tight end that doesn't bring in the rewards for the price it might be to get them, because the Patriots stole the tight end, so there's not much left, and if you're going to get a tight end, you might have to overpay at this point.
Yeah, so just going to hit on a few of these guys. Matt Milano, as Asa kind of mentioned, he pops off the screen. Anytime you're watching, he's a guy that just has a nose for the football, makes plays, like Asa said, on all three levels, in the backfield, in the run game, in the pass game. So he's a guy, Sean McDermott, quarterback of the defense over there in the middle linebacker position. He's a very valuable piece of that defense. So I think that was a great signing. You guys got Darrell Williams, and don't get me wrong, Trent Williams is better over there in San Francisco. But you got Darrell Williams for a little bit over $5 million more than they got Trent Williams for per year. He's getting like $23 million per year right now. Don't get me wrong, Trent Williams is better, but Darrell Williams is pretty darn good too, and that's a dang good price tag to get a starting tackle for right now in the National Football League. I think just as an overall fit, Emmanuel Sanders is better than John Brown, just in terms of route running ability. Josh Allen really increased his completion percentage last year and his accuracy throwing to the intermediate and short part of the field. That's really where Emmanuel Sanders shines. He doesn't take the top off like he used to. That's Stephon Diggs territory now. So I think having somebody to work the middle intermediate type stuff, Emmanuel Sanders could come in, pair him with Cole Beasley. I mean, if you line up Stephon Diggs out wide and you have one guy in the slot being Emmanuel Sanders and the other slot being Cole Beasley, I'd be really worried if I was a defense. So,
yeah, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills what they'll do is sometimes they'll call the same play up twice if it doesn't work the first time, just to prove that if they have a good play, they want it to work. John Brown was a recipient of some of those plays, one of which being like a 50-yard touchdown pass. And Emmanuel Sanders is a better route runner, so maybe we connect on the first time that Sanders throws that ball. So exciting moves in Buffalo for sure. I'm not mad at any of those. Okay, so let's go on to the Carolina Panthers. So we talked about Taylor Moton signing with them under the franchise tag. He still might get a deal worked out. Isn't clear yet if that, a lot of these franchise tag players have been getting deals. And then Cam Irving, Pat Eiflin, these are two of the bottom of the pack in terms of tackles and guards in the league. So good luck to Teddy Bridgewater out there. And then they cut edge defender Stephen Weatherly and signed Denzel Perryman. I think that was today. And Hassan Riddick just dropped not too long ago, a couple of hours ago, from Arizona. They play in a fairly open division, but none of these moves to me pop off the page as if they're going to turn around the Carolina Panthers. What do you guys have on them?
Yeah, Tom Brady's in that division, so, it's open for some aspects, and then Tom Brady kind of closed that door. Drew Brees leaves, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of an opening there, and then Tom Brady comes and just says, yeah, screw all that. That's not happening.
You have one rebuilding team. You have a Saints team that should be rebuilding that isn't, but they should be, and then you have Tom Brady.
I'm going to tell you, the Saints are going to be pretty good. I'm not trying to say Jameis Winston is better than Drew Brees, but just natural throwing ability. Jameis had a whole year to sit, pretty much. I think he played in one game last season. He's going to come in with a full off season with Sean Payton and those weapons. I don't think Carolina is going to be very good. I think the biggest addition here is Hassan Reddick. He had 57 pressures in his career, and then last season went off for 55 and 12.5 sacks, career numbers. Carolina was bottom 8 team in terms of sacks last year in the NFL. Brian Burns looks like he's a real deal pass rusher. He's an 86.9% pass rusher, a grade on PFF right now. So I definitely think that Carolina improved with the pass rush. The O-line just kind of is what it is. They're in the talks right now for Deshaun Watson. Guys, these quarterbacks that are in the market, if Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are remotely available, you give up whatever you have to give up to get them. Okay? We'll talk about it a little later about what Chicago offered up for Russell. It was still too low. It was a lot, and it was still too low. Yeah,
we have a poll on Twitter. So if you follow us on everything, which you should be, you could answer that poll on Twitter. There's a yes, maybe, no.
Yep.
One of the three people in this room actually clicked the wrong answer.
I clicked the wrong one. That was my bad.
It was Jay.
That was my bad.
Okay,
Andrew,
so
what do you think about Carolina? You got anything on Carolina?
Yeah, I was going to mention that they were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. I'm not really sure how that's going to pan out for them going forward. Pat Elflein and Cam Irving. I mean, you and I will know Cam Irving from his days in Kansas City and the frustrations we had watching him play. So, good luck.
Cheeks. He's absolute cheeks.
And Atlanta doesn't have much of a pass rush to really ride home about. But you go to Tampa and you play New Orleans and you have to deal with the Cam Jordans of the world and the Jason Pierre-Pauls and Devin Whites and you probably want to put some more people around Teddy Bridgewater, but this seems like these seem like moves that are just kind of, made to bring veteran pieces around a veteran quarterback to just kind of ride it out with this contract and then see where you go from there. Good luck in your division. I don't see Tampa or New Orleans sliding beneath Carolina or Atlanta. That's just kind of my opinion.
Yeah. Mostly agree there. I mean, I don't really see them improving too much next season. The only, if I'm looking at these signings, it doesn't give me any hope. The only thing that gives me hope is a healthy Christian McCaffrey next season. But even then, I still kind of feel bad for them, bad for him because
you trade him if you have to for Deshaun Watson. Adios.
Oh yes, yeah, Deshaun Watson. Then you rebuild your franchise after that. Absolutely. Okay, so Chicago Bears. They franchise tagged Allen Robinson, going back and forth about actually getting a deal with him. We'll see if that actually plays out this year. Re-signed a few people we'll talk about real quick. Cairo Santos, kicker, ex-Chiefs player right there. Pat O'Donnell, their punter. Mario Edwards signed a 3-year, $11.5 million contract for their D-line. And then cut Bobby Massey. Signed Andy Dalton, which is kind of the big news in Chicago. Not a lot of people are happy about that. And then Jermaine Ifedi, 1 year, $5 million deal, and then Deion Bush, numbers unknown, re-signed as safety. So 5 re-signings there. One of which was an additional franchise tag. So kind of in the same spot they were last year. They're just choosing Andy Dalton over Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. What's your take on that, Jay?
Gee, can Allen Robinson catch a break ever? Andy Dalton. We couldn't try to trade for Sam Darnold or get someone with some ability there. I mean, Andy Dalton. The one thing that people question about Andy Dalton is what? Arm strength. That's the biggest question. So why not sign him to the city with the wind? It's literally called the Windy City. And we're going to go ahead and sign Andy Dalton for that. And again, we've talked about this before. I think maybe I'm one of the few people who think that Chicago has some playmakers, man. With Allen Robinson and Cole Kmet and David Montgomery. Yeah, Tariq Cohen's going to be back. I mean, what is Sam Darnold going to cost you right now? I think you can get him for pennies on the dollar. I don't understand why you needed to reach and go get Andy Dalton. For a backup, fine. Okay, sign him as a backup. But you're doing nothing else right now. And something that I mentioned to the guys before we started is, for some reason, on all of these social media platforms and on all these big networks, they're talking about the quarterback problems for Chicago and then putting up Matt Nagy's picture. Like he's got something to freaking do with it. He coaches the players that the GM signs, okay? Ryan Pace, since he's become the Chicago Bears GM, has signed, get this, guys, it's unbelievable. Mike Glennon traded and signed him to a big contract. Traded up for Mitch Trubisky. Didn't have to do that. You would have got him to where he was. Signed Nick Foles, and now signs Andy Dalton, okay? And don't even get me started about John Fox was his first coaching. It's egregious. It's egregious. Chicago needs to do better.
Chicago's best quarterback was George Blanda, and he hasn't played for the team. Well, he played for the team for a long time, but he hasn't played for the team in a couple of decades here. No good quarterback will ever play in Chicago. That's it. I mean,
they said it's rumored they were trying to give 3 first-rounders, a third, and 2 starters. Not for Russell Wilson. Not enough. You haven't had a quarterback in your team's entire history. I don't care if It takes 5. Go get a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm done.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
Okay. Andrew, you have anything to add there?
Just to take a page out of the Colin Cowherd and Stu Gott's playbook real quick. The whether you want to call him the red rifle or the beige water pistol, Andy Dalton is back. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, he is back as a starter in the NFL. Let's go. Chicago Bears, I mean, good luck, man. You guys have Darnell Mooney as well, too, who's a promising receiver. So if Allen Robinson decides he wants to kick the tires next year and leave town, I mean, I guess you can rest on your laurels there. Ryan, I just literally have in my notes, Ryan Pace stinks, and Johnny already touched on it. So he's just awful. He's got to leave town first, in my opinion. If Matt Nagy's a good coach, we know him from Kansas City days. But just an underwhelming free agency period so far if you're the Chicago Bears fan.
Well, as Jay mentioned, Sam Darnold wouldn't cost 3 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and 2 starters. You could probably get him for 2 third-round picks at this point. So
you probably get him for 1 third-round pick, maybe, or a second-round pick.
Yeah. So if you're the Chicago Bears, you have an opportunity to maybe add some, potential there. Hey, maybe they go for Mac Jones in the draft. We'll see. So Cincinnati, the Bengals have re-signed a couple players, Clark Harris and Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen is just a backup at this point. They cut interior lineman B.J. Finney, signed edge defender Trey Hendrickson, which is a pretty nice signing. 4 years, $60 million. The price tag on that is a little high, but I'm not going to pretend that I can pronounce Chidobe Awuzie that well, but he signed a 3-year contract. I tried. 10 points to Gryffindor. Yes. And cornerback Mike Hilton. So shoring up some depth in the secondary there, but this team really needs help on the offensive line to help guard Joe Burrow and to make sure that as this kid matures, he doesn't break another leg. And I missed Tony Brown right there. So they have their secondary set from what it looks like, but a couple of holes that they still looking like they need to fill. They have sent a contract to Kenny Golladay, and he is technically going to see the Giants, which it looks like he's more interested in signing over there. But we'll see. Maybe they offered him a buttload of money.
I like Kenny Golladay to the Giants personally. It's always a good thing when your rookie quarterback is being hit the most in the league and then you decide not to sign an offensive lineman throughout the first few days of free agency. That's probably a winning formula. Trey Hendrickson went off against our Chiefs. He's very good. That's a lot of money. It seems like teams are paying for sacks now, and my only issue is I dug a little deeper here on Trey Hendrickson, big-brained it. He went ahead last year. He had 14 sacks. 11 of those sacks were in what PFF called cleanup, pursuit, or unblocked, which means he only had 3 where he just straight up won his matchup against the tackles. When you look at him on the edge, he only had 21 pressures, which is not great. He was 21st in pressures. I apologize. 21st in total pressures, which is not great. And he's still very good, but when you're coming from a New Orleans team that runs out Cam Jordan and Demario Davis and David Onyemata, there's a lot of players on that team that allow it for Trey Hendrickson to go one-on-one. I don't know who else you really need to worry about Cincinnati, so I'm sliding Liz, all my protection towards Trey Hendrickson and just making sure he doesn't go off, and that's it. And, I mean, I'm telling you, when you look at it, I mean, that's over 70% of his sacks coming in those, like I said, in those categories where it's like, the quarterback has broken the pocket and now, it's a pursuit drill. So or like someone gets contact on the quarterback and he's trying to get away and then he finishes. Again, he's a great player. He does a good job of getting pressure. But how much of that is just merely on him? I really don't know. And the numbers, they kind of lean towards my prediction that it had to do more with him being on the 7th ranked PFF pass rush in the New Orleans Saints last year. So we'll see how he does. I think it's a little too much money, but that's just me.
Thank you for your take there, buddy. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns. Not much here. We'll kind of breeze through them. Cut edge defender Adrian Claiborne. Signed John Johnson III, which is a nice pickup there. He's from the Chargers? No, Rams. No, Chargers. Yeah. No, Rams.
Yeah,
My
Rams.
bad. They're both LA, whatever. Los Angeles. I could have saved myself there by saying Los Angeles. And then edge defender, man, they're giving me all the hard names to say today. Takarist McKinley. I don't know if I said that right. Did I say that right, Andrew?
You did. Yeah, you're
Perfect.
good there.
Thank you so much. Andrew is my grammar coach. Anyways, not much here. I don't know if there's rumors abound for Cleveland, but not many moves. We'll see. We'll see what happens. They were super successful last year, so made the playoffs, beat the Steelers. So yeah, we'll see if they keep going up or stall out like they might have been doing for a long time. Anything you want to share on there?
No, they were in the. They were interested, like many teams, in Kenny Golladay. I don't think that's going to happen. They were interested in Patrick Peterson, and as we'll talk about later, he agreed to a deal with the Vikings not too long ago. So no, Cleveland probably won't be too active. They re-signed Kareem Hunt last year during the regular season to a 2-year deal to kind of shore up their run game, which is where they make their bread and butter. So I won't expect them to be too active here on. The Adrian Claiborne cut was a little interesting. He wasn't making a ton of money, but then they signed Takk McKinley to make up for it. So, I mean, maybe they just wanted a different player. So they just swapped.
Yeah, for sure. Much like the next team on our list, the Dallas Cowboys, there's not much going on yet. I mean, the big splash of Dak coming back and actually, getting his deal that he's been wanting for the last, 3 or 4 years. And then they signed Ty Neskey, who was third-string tackle for the Buffalo Bills last year. Not much out of these two camps. The Browns are not rebuilding. The Cowboys kind of are in that rebuilding phase, so to speak. Even though they just hit a lot of bad luck last year, but
I think the biggest and most important thing was to get Dak back, and that's what they did. So I don't think there's really anything else that needs to be done there. I think that they feel like they're a winning team that probably wins that division if Dak's healthy, and I'd agree with them.
Yeah, so we have Elizabeth coming in saying, to answer your question, Trent Williams 6-year contract at $138 million. Damn, that's crazy. Is it too late for me to be a football player? Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. It's absolutely not too late to become an NFL football player. You have every right to try out for a team. As your husband, I would suggest you not to put your body on the line, so you can be safe out there. I mean, we do talk a lot about these contracts and how some of them are crazy, some of them are not. But at the end of the day, these guys put everything out there. They break their legs. They lose pinkies during games. I mean, it's a crazy sport for sure.
Lord Lizzie, go to baseball. Go to baseball. That's where the money's at. Safer sport.
Yeah. Before Jay mentioned baseball, I was going to say, in a world where Andy Dalton can make $10 million, anything is possible.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you want to just ride the bench and make $6 million? That some of these teams will give that to you. Shoot,
Chase Daniels made a lifetime earnings on that.
$32 million and has played 4 total games.
Unbelievable.
I asked myself that question yesterday too after I saw the Trent Williams signing. But yeah, good for him. Well, that's what happens when you're the number one tackle in the free agency market. That actually had some competition. Okay, so we'll move on. We're moving on to Denver. The Broncos put the franchise tag on Justin Simmons, which we mentioned a couple episodes ago. A couple signings, couple cuts, getting rid of Jarrell Casey, AJ Bouye, and to replace them, signing Shelby Harris and Ronald Darby to play for their D-line and their secondary. Probably lateral moves from what it looks like to me. You guys have any takes on the Denver Broncos? I know Molakola, I don't think he's watching right now, or we haven't heard from Molakola right now, but I think Molakola is one of our viewers is a Denver Broncos fan. So
yes, he is.
They were hit with the injury bug last season, so I think that they can make up a couple wins this upcoming season.
Drew Lock sucks.
But
yeah,
Drew Lock Drew Lock does suck a little bit, so
we're gonna put together a hashtag Team Cheeks here on the AJA show, and we're gonna get that started. Where we just have a whole team of cheek players.
Yeah,
and he's the first pick in the first round on Team Cheeks.
He really is.
I'm down. Let's do it. Hashtag Team Cheeks. Okay, so the Detroit Lions have made a lot of moves. Some of these a couple weeks, are technically a couple weeks ago, but let's do this. And some while we were sleeping, so let's do this. Okay, Matthew Stafford traded away. You can get his jersey for $59.99 right now on the Detroit Lions website. They're getting Jared Goff to be their starter next year. A couple draft picks. They cut several players. Desmond Trufant, Justin Coleman, both secondary players. Jesse James, who had just signed a 4-year contract with them, one of their tight ends. A backup, I believe, their second-string tight end. Russell Bodine, not baking the bread anymore. The Boudin Bakery is closed over here. Christian Jones, linebacker. Chase Daniel, the aforementioned second string QB, third string QB maybe at this point, and Danny Shelton. Re-signed a couple of players, including Romeo Akawara to a 3-year, $39 million deal, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin to a 1-year, $2 million deal, so really cheap linebacker depth for them. A couple of the moves that they have made to replace some of these crazy transactions, or not so crazy, is tight end Josh Hill from the New Orleans Saints signed. Tyrell Williams signed from, the Chargers?
Oakland. Oakland, but Vegas.
Okay. Vegas.
Raiders.
Vegas 1 year, $4.7 million. And then Jamaal Williams last night, while we were sleeping, signed a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. And I believe, not too long ago, did this happen today, I think? They traded away a 7th rounder for Michael Brockers from the Rams, who's a D lineman. So a lot of moves. We kind of expect Detroit to take a step back, though, with not having Matt Stafford. You guys have any takes on this?
Just one funny one on Michael Brockers. A couple weeks ago when the trade went down with Jared Goff, he mentioned that Matthew Stafford was, quote, like a step above Jared Goff, and lo and behold, he's been dealt to play with him once more in the team that Matt Stafford came from. It's just kind of funny how the NFL works sometimes. The Jamaal Williams signing is both interesting and exciting. DeAndre Swift is a really good running back, and I think he can kind of just do it all for them. I feel like Jamaal Williams would have had a bigger market. I'm kind of surprised he went to Detroit, but I guess they're looking to do the 2 running back tandem like they had previously in Green Bay. But just the Michael Brockers thing is kind of made my day for free agency a little bit here. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, boo on that. Okay, I was all excited. The DeAndre Swift season, baby. They finally started unloading my boy towards the end of the season, and then you got Jamaal Williams coming in, as if he wasn't bad enough last year and the year before, ruining Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones was still able to go off because he's a freaking beast. But Jamaal Williams is always there to screw crap up. And there he goes again for another guy that I'm super hyped on in DeAndre Swift. Detroit's got to come in there. I mean, god dang it. They were giving Adrian Peterson snaps last year, man. It's unbelievable.
They're going to give Jamaal snaps, and Jamal's going to take advantage of them for sure.
And he's good, and that's what's the annoying part. But DeAndre's better. And DeAndre Swift is in his second year, okay? Let him eat a little bit, man. And then, I mean, to be honest, like I know people are talking, don't get me wrong. Matthew Stafford is an upgrade from Jared Goff.
Listen to this man.
When he's healthy. When is Matthew Stafford healthy? He's always injured. You were able to get Jared Goff. Jared Goff's not great. Detroit plays in a dome, though, okay? You're not going to have to worry. Jared Goff's, the biggest thing is his arm strength.
Yep.
You got, what did they get for Jared Goff again? It was 2 firsts and a third. Okay, fine. You had Matthew Stafford and you stunk anyway. So, I mean, Jiminy Christmas, man. Let's see DeAndre Swift get a little more work here. Okay, Jamaal Williams was signed. That's great and all. I don't want to see him on the field, okay? Because if I play DeAndre Swift in DFS and I get vultured by Jamaal Williams, I will go absolutely absurd. I'll go nuts. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We can already tell you're on the precipice right now, buddy. So,
these signings are getting me hyped today, guys. I had to tone it down. My blood pressure's going up.
Yeah, I know. You got to take it back. I mean, you are a highly interested party for a running back on your team, but it's okay. You're woo-saw. Rub your headphones. Rub your headphones. Okay. Back from our little yoga session right there. The Green Bay Packers have not done anything really. A big move though for them was, as Andrew said a couple of shows ago, they actually paid someone. So good on them. Aaron Jones. Hashtag free Aaron Jones. This kid is good, so that's good on them for actually paying him. We'll see. In the last couple of years, though, the Green Bay Packers have elite quarterback, draft a quarterback in with one of their top picks. Have an elite running back, draft another running back. So I mean, if it's depth or if it's just inconsistent like drafting, I don't know what's up with Green Bay, but and then Rick Wagner got cut, a tackle over there. I don't think they had much trouble guarding, for Aaron Rodgers last year, and that kid likes to run around, but he is getting older, so let's see if they can take care of him a little bit. Anything on Green Bay, guys, before we move on to the Houston Texans?
Aaron Jones is a playmaker. People kind of scoff at paying running backs nowadays, but he's really not a running back. I mean, he's literally a playmaker. He can line up in the slot. I mean, they've motioned him out wide before, and he's won routes on the outside he's won routes against corners out there on the outside. Just a legit playmaker for this team. That I think does a lot more than just what a traditional running back is thought of. That's kind of the mold nowadays. Running backs are not just guys who are going to line up 7 yards in the backfield and run halfback dives. It's just not the NFL anymore. And if you think that, then you would think that they probably overpaid a little bit for Aaron Jones. But what
I'm thinking though, like Aaron Jones playmaker, like you said. Like, I think they need one more. I think Will Fuller, which we were thinking he was going to get potentially traded to last year, didn't get traded. He's on the open market. He just has to miss the first game of the season because of his 5-game suspension from last year. But, Will Fuller. Maybe as, if he waits out too long, he'll just sign with any team, maybe take a little bit of a pay cut, 1-year deal. I could see that happening. But, sorry, I'll let you keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, he balled last year, over 1,100 rushing yards, averaged 5 yards a carry, 9 total touchdowns on the ground, 2 in the air. So again, just a playmaker, And I know Green Bay actually did lose their starting center. Corey Linsley did go to the Chargers to go help out Justin Herbert. We'll touch on him a little bit.
Yeah,
that's an interesting move that Green Bay wasn't able to retain him.
For sure. So actually, they do need some line help. Good point there. Something that they can shore up in the draft, though. They'll have the 29th pick this year. There's some names out there that will fall in that 25 to 35 range that they can definitely draft. And when we get closer to the draft, we'll talk about the draft. We're going to move on to the Houston Texans now. This is a little cut off here, but we'll persevere. So a lot. I'll just hit on a couple of them. Don't have to go through too much here. Mark Ingram, running back. Okay, he'll be a second string there. Andre Roberts will be a return man for them. Buffalo Bills, Pro Bowl kick returner, though he had a down season last year. There are a lot of 1-year contracts here, so they're not really necessarily building to the future. They're just building to the next season, it looks like, from this. They traded away their tackle. They traded for New England's tackle Marcus Cannon for to swap some picks in this year's draft. Benardrick McKinney, another trade to Miami for Shaq Lawson. So Shaq Lawson is I think he's in his 5th year, so he's okay. Defender, linebacker, DE combo. They have so many moves that we have to cut. We have to scroll down here a little bit. Duke Johnson is being replaced by got replaced on this team. A lot of just positions that aren't super impactful. This team is rebuilding. J.J. Watt obviously is a big one they lost. Didn't want to be there anymore. They signed a lot of 1 or 2 year contracts, as you can see right here. Any of these that I'll just throw it up to these guys real quick. Any of even the Tyrod move, which I'm not impressed by. You guys have any of these moves that you're super impressed by?
Not at all. If we did do a hashtag Team Cheeks on the AJ Sports Show, everyone besides Deshaun Watson on this team is just going to make Team Cheeks. If I'm Tyrod Taylor, I go to Deshaun and say, hey, yeah, Deshaun, go ahead, you find another spot to play, because poor Tyrod Taylor, everywhere he goes, he's like, oh, here we go, it's Tyrod Taylor season, and then boom, Cleveland,
I'm gonna say this.
Buffalo, gone.
I'm gonna say this right now: 2-win team next year.
Yeah, probably. I think you might be highballing, to be honest. I mean, we could be looking at 0-16 here, like the freaking Detroit Lions a few years ago. They're that bad. I don't even want to talk about any of these signings because they don't do anything. They all stink. I mean, 1 and 2 years because they know they're going to be gone in 1 and 2 years. So, yeah, I'm not impressed with any of that. They can do everything they want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they still have a lot of needs on that team. They need lineman help. They need secondary help. They could use a tight end. They could use edge defenders, wide receivers,
ownership.
Ownership.
Yeah, get a new owner in there. Whole new front office.
Quarterback too, apparently. So yeah, a lot of work that needs to be done there. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the Indianapolis Colts. Not much. Re-signed Marlon Mack, backup. He got injured last year. Didn't play the whole season, most of the season. I think he played 1 or 2 games, and then they traded some draft picks, obviously for Carson Wentz, which is the big move for them. But yeah, I mean that splash happened a couple weeks ago at this point. So yeah, we're still kind of waiting to see if they make some more moves. They were a competitive team last year, lost in the playoffs to the Buffalo Bills, which they played a close game. So a lot of young kids on this team too. You have any takes about Colts guys?
I'll let Andrew go first, but I just got to say, Asa, don't smile too much saying that, buddy.
Oh, whatever.
No, heck yeah, you should, bro.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We didn't lose. We lost to the Houston Texans because we flopped the year previous, and so we were not going to lose in the first game this year. I was assured by that. I knew there was a potential chance that we would lose to the Ravens or lose to the Chiefs. We beat the Ravens, lost to the Chiefs, but the Bills needed some of the setbacks. They worked the whole offseason knowing that they got embarrassed by the Houston Texans, and look at the Houston Texans now. They would have been the same if they had lost to the Indianapolis Colts. So I'm super glad that they that game, whatever, close games or not. I mean, it doesn't matter. Get the W, folks.
Yeah, as a Bills fan, you're probably just happy to see that Josh Allen comes back from that big fumble in, I believe it was in overtime against Houston, which eventually cost them the game, to then go on to the AFC title game. So I think you're okay there.
If you looked at it from our point of view, not that the Colts lost it, but the Bills won it. I mean, the Bills didn't have the ball that much that game. Every drive was super efficient. So, which is something as a Bills fan with Josh Allen, who's erratic and who is not that guy. I think it's a little BS if you actually look at the stats, and stats do not lie, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anyways,
jumping back to the Colts real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, re-signing Marlon Mack was interesting. Jay and I talked about it real quick. You have a workhorse back in Jonathan Taylor, and I guess you want a security blanket. That's a decent one. But they still need to address their left tackle situation. As we mentioned previously on shows before, Anthony Costanzo retired, who's a longtime left tackle, perennial Pro Bowler. That's going to be something they have to don't know if they're going to do it through free agency. There hasn't been any rumblings through like the Colts wires or anything. So they're probably looking the draft to do that. And just recently, actually, at the end of his workday today, Frank Reich was in an interview and said that they're going to be looking to make either a trade or a splash for a playmaking tight end. Not sure there's any on the market that fit that bill as a free agent, but there are some through trades, and that one name is Zach Ertz, and I would look for the Colts to try and make a play and Chris Ballard to try and go get Zach Ertz from Philadelphia to pair back with his buddy Carson Wentz, who will be wearing number 2 for the Colts for those interested parties that actually care what number he's going to be rocking over there.
Just to drop some breaking news real quick, the Patriots are bringing back linebacker Kyle Van Noy. He just tweeted 3 minutes ago, "We back," with a lot of Ks.
Twitter, it's where it all happens nowadays.
Yeah.
So the Colts, everything hangs on Carson Wentz and how he plays. Everyone remembers. I don't have to talk about it too much, but 2017 with Frank Wright, they were 11-2 before his injury. In those 13 games, he had over 3,200 yards, 33 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Colts O-line was ranked 7th. Andrew did mention they did lose Anthony Costanzo. Another team that apparently doesn't care about your fantasy team because they go ahead and bring back Marlon Mack and don't give a darn about Jonathan Taylor going off. You have Nyheim Hines, who already gets enough of Jonathan Taylor's work. Guys, get my fantasy teams, guys. My DFS lineups, guys. I don't need Marlon Mack on the Colts anymore.
Yeah, you can draft a 6th or 7th round running back or something if you really want like a 3rd string or a 4th string running back and place him there instead of Marlon Mack. But yeah,
I mean, again, they talked about the big thing about Jonathan Taylor, right? Why they needed Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines. Oh, he doesn't catch the football. Well, he had 47 targets last year, caught 44 of them. So bite me.
All right, let's take a step back from the biting and move on to the Jaguars and see how big their bite is. So, Cam Robinson tackle franchise tag. I think we were a little bit not impressed by that the other day. A lot of moves. Just gonna go through a couple of them here. We'll have to scroll down too because there are a lot of parts moving here. Some big contracts, some smaller ones. They're in total rebuild mode with Trevor Lawrence coming in. Philip Dorsett signing with them. We have to scroll down. Marvin Jones Jr. So they'll have some wide receivers coming in, but last year they weren't short on wide receivers. It was just bad quarterback play. They have the young James Robinson there who had a good season last year. A lot of pieces signed, as you can see here. Most of the players are coming in as opposed to leaving. Any of these names popping out at you guys that you're impressed by? I'm a little surprised that Marvin Jones signed with them when Nelson Aguilar got a 2-year deal as well, but got $12 million more overall. So I'm not 100% sure if Marvin Jones just wanted to play in Florida, but...
Yeah, I agree. There was not anything really here that stands out too much. You're noticing a trend here. The bad teams have a lot of transactions because when you're bad, you're trying to figure it out. New front office, new coach, new quarterback. I mean, holy Jiminy! Between them and who were we talking about earlier? That's gonna be Cheeks. Who did we just talk about? Houston. Between them and Houston, I mean, at least Jacksonville will have Trevor Lawrence, but these teams are both gonna be awful, and they're in the same division. So tee up Tennessee and Indy. Sorry.
Oh yeah, for sure. Tennessee and Indy might just be 12-win teams because of their division being so lopsided right now. Since 2017, the Jets and the Jaguars have spent the most in free agency signings, and they are the bottom 2 teams in the league record-wise since then. So, what do you expect if you're just spending all this money, cutting players, spending some more money? It just seems like a shit show. But yeah, any take from you, Andrew? Are you any anti-Urban Meyer takes?
Nope. Just nothing really exciting from Jacksonville.
Oh, are you going to get excited? You're probably going to get excited about the Kansas City Chiefs.
We're going to get excited for the next one a little bit. Yeah, we're going to get a little bit excited. Especially we had some, breaking news we'll get to right now. So
we dipped your finger in the water with Jacksonville, but you're bobbing for apples now with Kansas City. So Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz, 2 injured and slightly unreliable offensive linemen for you guys last year during your Super Bowl run were cut to make up for that. Joe Thuney and Kyle Long just came out of retirement to sign with the team. Super Bowl darling Damian Williams was cut, but you guys have Darrell Williams there. And then what's the breaking news, Andrew? Do you have was it Kyle Long coming out of retirement?
Yes, sir. It was Kyle Long coming out of retirement, coming back to a offensive line room that needs as much help as it can get.
I actually have breaking news. Hold on. Austin Ryder, who was cut from the team, is now in talks with the team. The Chiefs have made him an offer, so it looks like the guy you cut might be coming back. So that just came through the pipeline right now.
And I think that has to do with like Austin Ryder believing he could test free agency and maybe get some big time money, and letting the couple days pass. And Austin Ryder, for what it is, he's very good. Like he's okay. From the Super Bowl against the 49ers, between that time and the Super Bowl this past year, he only allowed 1 sack and over 400 pass blocking snaps, and that's really good as a center when you can really hold the defensive line when you're dealing with a lot of tackles.
Mm-hmm.
I like the signing of Taco Charlton. He unfortunately had an injury that derailed his season, but was off to a nice start. He had a lot of pressures and very few snaps and very limited time. So I'd like to see him opposite Frank Clark alongside our other guy, Tano Passignon. But Kyle Long is the one that I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping we kind of make a move for David Andrews, who's still on the market here. But so far, I'm liking the offensive line.
Let me get one of your guys' takes on this. But this team, the Chiefs, are looking to spend money. I mean, I'm not surprised by it because, like we said earlier, like if your time is now, like make it happen. A lot of their top players who will retire with the team are taking like restructuring their contracts. Jay, is there anybody out there that you think like potentially would come to Kansas City? Maybe a playmaker?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the rich getting richer or anything, but adding another playmaker, Sammy Watkins, his future with us is up in the air still. Obviously getting that offensive line situated was the biggest priority. Patrick Mahomes is going to score points. He missed a few games last year. Still was second in the league in passing yards. He's unbelievable. The offense is unbelievable with Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. The defense, for what it's worth, I mean, we're Chiefs fans, so, I mean, no bias here, but big bias. Situationally, we get it done. Tyrann Mathieu, a ball hawk. We're one of the best teams in the league against the pass. I mean, granted, a lot of that has to do with that we're winning a lot. So, you can get a lot of practice when you're winning a lot. And so I think it was a big deal. Kyle Long coming. Hopefully he can stay healthy. We can get Austin Ryder back at the center. Bringing in Thuney is huge. So, I mean, when Ace is right, when you were spending a lot of money. But when you give Patrick Mahomes the amount of money you give, that's pennies on the dollar to keep him healthy. And especially right now, his cap hit this year is only in the mid-20s. He already restructured. Travis Kelce already restructured. When you're a winning team like this and you play for an organization that has fun and is winning, obviously winning is the most fun. As long as you're winning, you're gonna have fun, and that's gonna let players alleviate their salaries, to take more team-friendly deals, and they're really not losing money or anything. A lot of this is just transferring over stuff like a roster bonus into a signing bonus, and that allows the cap hit to be a little less. So yeah, I can definitely see us trying to add a playmaker. I can definitely see us just going crazy and adding every offensive lineman that we can find to protect Patrick Mahomes. That Super Bowl game is just an awful look, something that the Chiefs are never going to want to see again. I mean, that was on tape for everybody to see. They annihilated us, and I mean, we had so many injuries, and you don't want to chalk everything up to injuries, but when you're on your third string right tackle, when you're on your second string left tackle, E. Fish tore his Achilles in the championship game. We're getting LDT back, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, out there doing the Lord's work. Didn't even play last year because he's a doctor. Decided that he was going to fight COVID on the front line there, so big ups to him. But, this is a team that is scary already, and no bias, but could be even scarier.
Yeah, no team is perfect. We already know that. But yeah, I mean, they're already reworking their offensive line. I feel like they're going to get a wide receiver for some reason. I feel like they'll make another splash and pull in, because I think that's their other area of weakness, as you kind of already mentioned. And they can target that in the draft too. So it's exciting times if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Moving on to their nemesis, who they somehow lose to every year once, not twice, but the Las Vegas Raiders. So some of this is actually wrong. Gabe Jackson was traded, not cut. He was traded just within this last hour. Richie Incognito was cut and then just re-signed with the team today. So again, just a little bit of reworking there. So they made 2 trades today. They traded Rodney Hudson, their center, and a 7th-round pick to Arizona for a 3rd-round pick. So they must be thinking that they can replace him in the draft. And then they traded Gabe Jackson, instead of cutting him, to the Seahawks for a draft pick this year. I don't know if that was verified or I think it may be a 6th or 7th round pick, so kind of a late pick. Again, a couple of names on here that are interesting. Yannick Ngakoue, 2-year, $26 million deal, which is a good move for them. John Brown, wide receiver, adds to their depth with also Zay Jones, who's probably like their sixth wide receiver on the roster now. Yeah, I mean, some of these are lateral moves, some of these are interesting. We kind of were talking pre stream though. We kind of feel like they're shedding the offensive line down to maybe set up Derek Carr for some failure, and then they could rebuild from there. I'm not 100% sure but that was kind of our feelings with some of these moves, because the Raiders were excellent on their offensive line last year, and then they're getting rid of some of their crucial pieces. So
yeah, they had some injuries last year on the offensive line, but the year before that, they were incredible. I don't understand what trading Rodney Hudson does for you. There was rumors that he was gonna be cut, and that's what happened with Gabe Jackson. Gabe Jackson, they were talking about him being cut, and then all of a sudden, they decided. I think they got like a 5th-round pick for him or something like that from Seattle. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. And the scary part, if you're a Raider fan, is since John Gruden and Mike Mayock came in, this is just par for the course. I mean, when they traded Khalil Mack, it was, oh, wow, we have all this cap space. We're going to sign all these players. Everyone they signed is gone. Tyrell Williams, Antonio Brown. I mean, they signed like 5 guys and talked about that being the core of their team, and every single one of them is gone. So I really don't know where the direction here is for the Raiders. You're moving to Las Vegas, so I don't understand. You got to put a good product out on the field. It's the Raiders and it's Vegas, so people will show up anyway. But it's also Vegas. Like you have to be a draw. I mean, I get it. Vegas has so much to do. So I don't fully understand. The offensive line moves have been really questionable. The receiver moves are even a little more weird. I don't like them, so maybe again I'm a little biased towards it. But I don't think there's a Raider fan. If there's a Raider fan listening, comment, shoot us a DM, a chat, something. If you can explain what is going on here, shoot, I'll take your take and bring it on the show, man, because I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Deshaun Watson to Oakland. Yeah, go to Oakland. Las Vegas. Anyways, okay, moving on. Sorry, we're caffeinating over here. It is a part of the process. Okay. The Chargers out of Los Angeles, not San Diego, because I'm getting geography mixed up here. They cut Trey Turner. They cut Casey Hayward Jr. Both pretty solid options. Big name for them coming in is Corey Linsley out of Green Bay, 5-year, $62 million contract, which is about par for the course for him. And re-signed Michael Davis to their secondary, and Matt Filer. Signed tackle guard combo. I think he plays a little bit of everything. One of those jack of all trades, master of none type players. Yeah, you guys have anything on Chargers?
This is just kind of like a case of the Patrick Mahomes effect before the Patrick Mahomes and the Super Bowl thing kind of happens to Justin Herbert, just surrounding him and prioritizing offensive linemen. Trey Turner was mostly. I believe he was cut mostly because of a cap situation. They didn't want to have to extend him. He's a pretty serviceable player, but Matt Filer is definitely better. Center Corey Linsley is probably top 3 at his position in the NFL. That's why he got the big bucks that he did. Green Bay will definitely miss having that pick. And then Casey Hayward, kind of on the opposite end of 30 now. Still a good player. Still, you'd like to have a veteran presence like that in the locker room. But Michael Davis has definitely shown that he can operate really well with hopefully a healthy Derwin James in the secondary, which I know Chargers fans will definitely be hoping for going into next season, given all the issues they've had with trying to keep that man healthy since his Defensive Player of the Year nominee rookie campaign. So,
I think that if they are going to make a splash, it would be to bring in another wide receiver. Justin Herbert he has Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen was a little injured last year, so he hasn't played like a full season with the number one, and making a splash for someone else might be a smart move for them. But I do like some of I do like Michael Davis on the defense there. I do think that they need to work to shore that up. They lost a lot of close games last year, a lot of like heartbreaking like games. Like it was just ridiculous. So as maybe Justin Herbert elevates them a little bit, they're not in as close games. You just you got to they'll build on it, and I think they will improve next year. Their season could have been completely turned around if I think it was like 8 or 9 games were within like 7 points.
That's like every year for the Chargers, it seems like, man. And just to kind of reiterate Andrew's point, Corey Linsley was rated as the #1 center last year for Pro Football Focus. They will have to, for some reason, this didn't make it onto PFF's thing. Don't worry, we'll get with PFF because this is preposterous. Hunter Henry left, right? He signed with the Patriots. So they will have to, they can either address it or Donald Parham season, baby. Donald Parham, like 6'5", huge, out of the XFL. My boys over at Establish the Run are always writing and raving about free Donald Parham. Now's his chance if they don't want to go ahead and sign him. He did make, he had a few splash plays last year. Somebody that, if you're looking at fantasy sleepers, if you're looking at DFS type stuff, he's always really, really cheap, especially DFS-wise. He used to be touchdown or bust last season. It may be a little different now that Hunter Henry's out of the picture. But we'll get into Hunter Henry and his mediocre play coming up here in the Patriots section.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, he is who I'm talking about, likes to move the ball around. So, that'd be awesome to see Parham get some more love in there because, he can definitely make a splash, as you said. The Rams and Miami both kind of, haven't done a ton, but we'll just kind of go through them real quick. Jared Goff obviously is no longer a Ram. They got Matt Stafford, so obviously changing out your quarterback is going to be a huge play for you. Might put them a couple of games over the edge next season. Leonard Floyd re-signed with them, which is a big guy for them on defense, and then. Again, we aforementioned Michael Brockers to Detroit for another draft pick. I know Jay was talking earlier before we got on, but what do you think the Rams are going to do record-wise next year, Jay?
Yeah, so I just think that this is more of a product of looking at their division, right? And the Rams have shown that they're big players in any market, whether that be the free agent or trade market. The Rams are interested in pretty much anybody who's available. So it's a big upgrade, in my opinion, from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff. Now, the question that I asked when we talked about Detroit is the same here. Is he going to stay healthy, right? That's always been a question mark with Matthew Stafford. We know the talent's there. We know the arm talent's there. It's ridiculous. Sean McVay does employ, that play action, hard play action offense with short to intermediate stuff really working. So number one, to answer your question, I could see them being an 11 or 12 win team. I genuinely think that Sean McVay looked around the division and saw with Jared Goff, he very well may have the worst quarterback in that division. When you look at Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray and even Jimmy Garoppolo, people are going to snot on Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't worry. I got something for you when San Francisco comes up, and I'll talk about it. But I can see them winning 11 games, 12 games. They won 10 last year. And that was with Goff missing a few games. So I can see them being an 11 or 12 win team. That division is a little funky now with Seattle kind of looking a little San Francisco, every year you have to ask a question about their injury history. And Arizona looked like they made some moves to be a real contender there. But, I could see them win 11, 12 games.
I think they need to shore up a little bit on their offensive line. I think they played in Miami last year, and Miami had like 7 sacks against them. So I think interior and tackles-wise for their line, they need to, surround Matt Stafford with a little bit better of a line. And then they can, I think they would easily have a 12-win season if they did that.
And I think having Stafford is going to help with that. Real quick, just Goff is a statue back there, dude. I mean, he's good at play action, but I think that's more of the Sean McVay effect. Jared Goff could not outrun me in crutches. I'm just being honest. So,
definitely. No, well, yeah. You're a young guy. I'm a little bit bigger than you. I could probably outrun him. Let's even take that a step further.
Whole question of the night: does Ace outrun Jared Goff? I think that's
Hey, I can move for a big guy. I work. Still work, but been laid off since COVID hit. But I can move around in a kitchen. You should see me. Like I'm like on roller skates. So in a kitchen with like hot things everywhere and people running around. You should. I'm pretty good. Pretty decent. Okay. We're gonna just go over Miami real quick here. They got rid of their punter, so they signed a new one. Traded away Shaq Lawson. Made a couple of trades. Cut Kyle Van Noy. They signed a couple backup players here. Carter for tight end. They have like 4 tight ends on the roster now. Jacoby Brissett as a backup to Tua turn the ball over. I will say that the whole season. Justin Coleman on a 1-year, $2 million deal, and defensive lineman Adam Butler on a 2-year deal too. Again, nothing big splashy here. Did they make any moves here for me to beat out the Bills to the division? I don't think so, but yeah.
I think they may be slightly worse than the Patriots next year. I mean, I don't think the Patriots are going to be very great either, but they're going to get some guys back, and we'll talk about the Patriots a little bit coming forward. But Miami,
we're taking the Miami to Minnesota connecting flight. So Minnesota, again, not a whole lot to write home about. They cut a couple players, Riley Reif, Dan Bailey, Shamar Stephen, Cordrea Tankersley. So just a couple of names there, not like game changers. Signed Stephen Weatherly to a 1-year small deal for on the edge, and Dalvin Tomlinson another a 2-year deal on their line, and then Nick Vigil 1-year, $1 million deal. Doesn't get it cheaper than that, I think, to play linebacker for them. They are kind of in a team that is in the middle of the pack, so none of these moves to me elevate them to compete with the Green Bay Packers. Offensive wise, I think they're set. They maybe just need a new quarterback in the next couple of years. But you guys have any thoughts on Minnesota?
Andrew, you got anything?
I know that Danielle Hunter is looking is kind of like not happy with the situation, I guess, for lack of better terms to say. So he's been talking to the organization a little bit about maybe moving on. Those who know Danielle Hunter, he was the youngest player in NFL history to reach 50 sacks for his career at the age of 25. Dalvin Tomlinson is actually not a terrible signing. He's a pretty stout defender in the middle of the defense. And then, we can touch on Patrick Peterson for a second. I mean, he's over the hill.
The news dropped at the top of our show.
Yeah, former perennial Pro Bowl quarterback. I guess the one thing I could say is that he gets to wear the colors his college used to wear at LSU. That's cool. He gets to wear purple and gold again.
Purple and gold again.
I don't really understand that move there, but
couple of news that just dropped as we've been talking. The Browns are bringing back Rashard Higgins on a 1-year deal, and then Kyle Van Noy is signing to a 2-year deal that can net him up to $13.2 million. So a couple of more news breaking on there.
The only thing I'll say about the Vikings, guys, I'm sorry, Ace, I hate to cut you off. The only thing I'll say about the Vikings, I'm obligated to say it anytime we talk about them. Irv Smith fantasy value to the moon. Get Irv Smith on your fantasy teams. Okay, the volume's a little scary, but no Kyle Rudolph. Irv Smith season, baby. There are a few tight ends that I'm really putting a stamp on this year. Komet and Irv Smith. Let's go.
And Donald Parham Jr. from the Chargers.
Throw him in there too, but I like the other two a little better than I like Donald Parham. Just
okay. Oh, okay. Well, our connecting flight has brought us to the New England Patriots, and as you can see me scrolling here, there's a lot to talk about. Some hot takes we might have. I will go through them as quick as I can, and then we'll kind of give you some of our thoughts. Cam Newton coming back for another year. Good luck. Justin Bethel re-signed on a really cheap deal for 3 years. They traded away their tackle Marcus Cannon, which we had already mentioned. They traded a 5th rounder to Vegas for Trent Brown, kind of as a lateral move there. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry are both joining the team on multiple year deals. So they're trying to recreate the Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez magic that they had a decade ago. We kind of already mentioned some of these players in Instagram posts, but Devon, Jalen both signed multiple year deals the same day as Jonnu and Hunter. They signed Nelson Aguilar to a 2-year, $26 million deal. That kid just got rich overnight. Deatrice Weiss Jr. Was re-signed, 4-year deal. One of the big names that they were able to get is Matt Judon on a 4-year, $56 million deal. As you can see here, the Patriots are spending a lot of freaking money. Kendrick Bourne, who was about a third-string wide receiver for the 49ers last year, 3 years, $22.5 million. Like, if that is not getting overpaid, I don't know what is getting overpaid. And just to round out the list here, Carl Davis was re-signed, Henry Anderson, both D linemen, and yeah, as we already mentioned, Hunter Henry. So a lot going on there. I just mentioned the stats don't lie here. You spend a lot, it doesn't always equate to success. This team never spends money, and so now they're spending money. I don't know. I feel like this is like the blowout party of the decade for Bill Belichick. This is like maybe his last season. He's just like there's a funny New England Patriots meme going around of the dog drafting for Bill Belichick. I think the dog is just pressing the buttons on the screen right now. I don't know if I like these moves a lot. Like I do like some of them, but like I think it's just way too much going on. Like I don't see how you're going to bring in like 5 offensive weapons and then expect Cam Newton, who only threw 8 touchdowns last year, to be able to like come in here and like get them the ball. I mean, I didn't see a lot of like personally out of Cam Newton last year that would bring me faith with all of these new weapons. I think they're going to be overrated. They're always overrated. ESPN loves to just tweet about these guys about how awesome they are. And they do deserve a lot of that recognition, but the Patriot years are over. Let them be a bad team that makes bad choices, which is, I think, like, too much of a good thing here. Like, I can't even fit all this on one screen, guys. Like, and they're probably still not done. So that's my Patriots take, coming from as partial as I can of a Buffalo Bills fan. I don't see them winning the division next year, but I could see them.
I was going to say, a little bias there. A little bias,
Here's how it is. Cam Newton's your quarterback. You're not going to the playoffs. That's what I'm thinking. I don't necessarily believe in Cam anymore, and you guys might think differently. But I watched him play last year, and I watched him be defeated. I watched Bill Belichick slamming phones for no reason because he's getting frustrated. We lost a couple of viewers after I made my take there, so sorry to see you guys go, but I still feel the same exact way. I don't think you can recreate what you did 10 years ago, guys. That's just my thing here. And then a lot of these players are not necessarily like in their primes. Like I know what I'll just let you guys talk, but come on, Jonnu Smith, like has he even had like a 700-yard catching like season? No. Has Kendrick Bourne or Nelson Aguilar lived up to their expectations as like maybe if you're looking at them as like wide receiver 3s and 4s, yeah, they sure. But okay, talk. I've talked enough.
Yeah, so I'm gonna agree and disagree with you on both ends. My theory for why they're spending right now is the cap was decreased due to COVID. For the first time in a very long time, the cap has been seeing an increase, especially in the NFL, due to the revenue sharing, and it's been going up quite a bit every year. I feel like maybe they think that they're getting these guys at a discount now in terms of the future. The cap's going to go up every year that they have a successful season monetarily. That cap number is going to go up, and if that cap number inflates, it means that everyone's salaries are going to inflate. So that's the only reason that I can see them going out on a spending spree. Now, I don't understand a lot of the signings. You did mention the Gronk and Hernandez connection that people keep referring back to. Gronk and Hernandez were elite tight ends. So I'm going to give you a little stats here on Jonnu and Hunter Henry. For some reason, are being paid like elite tight ends, and they're just not. Hunter Henry never had a 700-yard season so far in the NFL. He's had some where he's been injured, but he's had 4 where he's played over 14, 15 games. So he
had Justin Herbert throwing to him last year. If you're not going to be successful.
And
yeah.
Phillip Rivers. He had Phillip Rivers in the first part of his career.
Absolutely. Is Cam Newton a better thrower than those two? No.
Okay, and then Jonnu Smith never had over 450 yards receiving. He had 8 touchdowns last year, but never.
Firsker, his backup, had a better season last year. I'll go ahead and say that.
And Jonnu Smith's 8 touchdowns this year is more than he's had in his entire career. So outlier a little bit, I would say so personally. Mm-hmm. Now again, no bias, but big bias. The Chiefs are currently paying Travis Kelce per year $14.3 million. Each of these gentlemen in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith is making about $12.5 million. Now, if you were to take Travis Kelce's stats last year, he had 105 catches. These two combined had 101. Travis Kelce had 1,416 yards. These two combined had just over 1,000 at 1061. Travis Kelce by himself had 11 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith in his career touchdown. I mean, is he ever going to score 8 touchdowns again? I mean, I don't think so. No. Travis had 11, and then combined had 12. So don't get me wrong. I think Cam Newton is going to play better than he did last year. I think having COVID really was a big factor. There was a 4-week stretch there after he got COVID where he just wasn't himself. He stepped it up towards the end of the season. I mean, as much as you can step up your play when you're that bad for a 3 to 4 week stretch. I think the Patriots are going to be okay. I think they have an outside shot making a wild card. The division's out of the question. Buffalo's just way too talented, way too good offensively and defensively. But yeah, I think the Patriots I think they're spending because the cap is decreased because of the COVID season last year. It brought it down. So I think that spending went down for a player. So I think that's why they thought they can go out there and spend.
I don't know if Andrew has anything to say, but to me personally speaking here, I get that Cam underperformed last year, but the way that I see it, I don't know if the dynamic of quarterback to coach there is working. So I feel like Cam is very outspoken, and I don't know if that combo is elite enough to get them into the playoffs, because you have to be a 11-win team probably going forward in this, like in the next few years, to make it to the playoffs with these, with the Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns, the Bills. Like, there's not a lot of spots available these days. So
one quick note on the Patriots. The reason why I see them spending the money they are, Bill Belichick, for as good as he is as a head coach, unfortunately has not carried that same that same badge when it comes to being GM Belichick. He hasn't drafted a Pro Bowl player since the Patriots took Jamie Collins back in 2013, and then they put they drafted N'Keal Harry 2 years ago. He hasn't really been what they thought he was going to be. And then last year they took Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi, 2 tight ends in back-to-back rounds, and just they were completely whiffs. I don't even think they really saw much game time this past season. So Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are probably just trying to be replacements for that, I guess. And if they have the money, go ahead and spend it, like Johnny mentioned. But that's all I got on that.
Okay, well, we'll move on. The New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees officially just retired. They franchise tagged Marcus Williams. They have several cuts on the roster: Emmanuel Sanders, Janoris Jenkins, Thomas Morstead, Josh Hill, Nick Easton, Quan Alexander, but was then later re-signed. So yeah, I mean, the way that they were super over the cap, they had to make a lot of these moves just to be able to restructure. They had a lot of contracts restructured. We talked about them again on the other couple of shows ago. So if you've been watching us ever since, you've been able to keep up with the New Orleans Saints. They re-signed Ty Montgomery, who's a backup, like third string running back, who's got a little bit of potential there. He had I think maybe one good game last year. And then Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill will be competing for the quarterback spot. I think Jay has a take on the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I think it needs to be Jameis Winston. If you remember his last season starting for the Bucs, he threw for over 5,000 yards. Granted, he threw a lot of yards to the other team too with how many picks he threw. But having Sean Payton for a year, a full offseason to learn the offense, I think he's just a more talented thrower of the football. He was the first pick in the draft that year coming out. They had to make a lot of cuts. They were $60 million over the cap when the season year started. So that's why you see a lot of cuts on their end. But, I think they're still going to be a serviceable team with Jameis so long as he doesn't turn the ball over as much as he did in Tampa.
I agree. Okay, so the New York Giants. A couple of moves here. The big one that hasn't happened that potentially might in the next couple of days is Kenny Golladay. He's going to go visit them within probably the next 2 days, and then if you're going to visit, that's like the old school way of signing to a team. So chances are he might be choosing them as his suitor next year. Leonard Williams was franchise tagged, but then later signed for a 3-year, $63 million deal. They cut Kevin Zeitler, Golden Tate, David Mayo, a couple of veteran guys right there, and signed the speedster John Ross out of from formerly of the Bengals. I mean, they were a fringe playoff team last year. They potentially can change that if they make a splash in free agency. I don't got much else to say. What do you think? What are you thinking, Jay?
Yeah, so I think that Kenny Golladay transaction would be huge for them. If you look at their offense, if you all of a sudden if you sign Kenny Golladay, you line up Kenny Golladay on one outside receiver slot, you line up Darius Slayton on the other. Inside, you have Sterling Shepard in the slot, who's really I really like Sterling Shepard. I think he's a really good slot receiver. Evan Ingram as your starting tight end, and then we got Saquon back there, so long as he can stay healthy. Daniel Jones will have every opportunity this year. They did lose Kevin Zeitler, who I think is a very good guard. But it comes with the territory, and you're not everything's not going to go perfect for you. You're not going to have the greatest offensive line all the time. Daniel Jones has to be healthy. He's got to be better when he's playing. And I think adding Kenny Golladay, you can truly get a full representation of whether or not Daniel Jones is your guy going into next season. His rookie deal, you're going to have the option to extend him past his rookie deal next year. So this is going to be a big year for Daniel Jones. And if I'm the Giants, I want to find out every scenario whether or not he's the right fit. I think Kenny Golladay does that for you when you add him to an already talented allotment of pass catchers over there in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to move on myself to the Jets here. So the Jets have they placed the franchise tag on Marcus May. Including that move, they have signed a few players to the team. So they got edge defender Carl Lawson to a 3-year, $45 million deal, which is a pretty decent contract for him. They signed Corey Davis, which, okay, who's going to be throwing him the ball? He had a splash last year in a couple of games where A.J. Brown was injured. Corey Davis is probably a little underrated, but again, who's throwing the ball? And then Jarrad Davis, 1-year deal to play for their linebacking core. And they cut Henry Anderson, who was a defensive lineman for them last year. Again, we're looking at technically the worst team in the division. No moves here speak to me. Corey Davis is a nice name, but I don't think they're competitive next year.
A little overpaid.
I think yeah. I mean, yeah, he's getting paid more than Marvin Jones Jr., less than Nelson Aguilar per year, but yeah, well, good on him. $27 million guaranteed for being like a wide receiver 2 last year. That's really good.
And don't forget, you could very well see Sam Darnold being moved here. They've been connected to a few quarterbacks coming out, with Trey Lance being one of the big guys, especially after his really, really nice pro day. A lot of people talk about pro days. Pro days are great and everything. It's the most controlled environment you're ever going to have. So, pro days are pro days. Everyone looks good at their pro day. But dude looks like the real deal. I mean, he doesn't play a lot of talent coming out of that small school, but being connected there, Robert Saleh, it seems like, wants to bring in his own quarterback, which makes sense. You're coming in, you don't want no hand-me-downs. I just think Andrew knows. I think Sam Darnold is very underrated. I think he has the opportunity to be a very good quarterback. I think if the San Francisco 49ers end up actually wanting to move off of Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that he can really shine in Kyle Shanahan's offense, where he can be more of a distributor, more of that short passing game, West Coast offense that he likes to employ. We kind of talked about it when we talked about the Niners, where Deebo Samuel has gone off before for the Niners, and Brandon Ayuk has gone off before, just because of their schemes. And they're really good. They have some great weapons over there. I'd love to see Sam Darnold around a good organization, a good team, good coach, and some good weapons around him, and really see what he can do. And I don't think, again, as we talked about, pennies on the dollar for him right now. Dude was like, what was he? He was the second pick in the draft or something like that. So, he's argue that he's talented is not the question. I'd argue if he has the goods, as they say, my boys over on the Dan Le Batard show, as they say about Baker Mayfield, he's got the goods. I don't know if he has the goods. I certainly think so. But again, let's give him the opportunity to find out, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot. But yeah, just a little interesting tidbit.
Yeah, I think the Jets don't move on from Sam Darnold unless they make some surprising move. I think Robert Saleh sees what he gets out of him this year, and then they're in the market 2022 for a veteran quarterback, or potentially if they're a bad team again, they'll get a great draft pick. So so let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not much going on. They cut Deshaun, cut Alshon, both of these, veteran, injured, past their prime wide receivers. Malik Jackson was cut today, and Trayvon Hester was recently cut. So they're rebuilding They obviously traded away Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, solid talent for them to build around. They have some weapons. Miles Sanders is real nice. They have some young core wide receivers. I feel like they will, they'll probably be like middle of the pack in their division, and have a couple of games where they surprise some players, some teams around the league. But yeah, that's all I have.
I'd say pour one out for my boy Joseph, but Joe is the biggest critic of the Philadelphia Eagles there is. If you look at what they were when they won the Super Bowl to where they are now, it's a stark difference, man. It's unbelievable to see how fast an organization and a team in general can just flip a 180. Carson Wentz was the cream of the crop, main guy, MVP candidate. Has a bad season in a COVID year when he really didn't get an offseason to practice with these guys, and they move off of him right away. Just really interesting stuff. Philadelphia is a tough place to play, right? Tough media market there. Fans are very critical of their team there. So, I mean, I would want to say I understand it, but I really don't sometimes. You got anything on them, Andrew? I know there's not too much to say about them, but.
No, it looks like a complete overhaul, starting over with Jalen Hurts. I like Miles Sanders. That's kind of about it on the offensive end. Dallas Goedert, if he can stay healthy, but they're probably just, if you're an Eagles fan, expect to lose Zach Ertz and have a completely looking roster next year, and hopefully build for your future. But
I don't think they're the most complete team in the division by any means. I think where they could maybe surprise is on offense. I think potentially I like Jalen Hurts enough to say maybe they could have the best offense in their division, but I don't think that gets them a division win. Winning their division next year.
Cowboys.
Okay, so,
yeah, Cowboys will probably have the best offense, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I mean
I'm with you on that. So the up and down Pittsburgh Steelers, undefeated, then played sloppy second half football, and then just got sucker punched by the Cleveland Browns. They we'll see what they do for the rest of the offseason so far. They're bringing back Ben Roethlisberger on a restructure of his deal because they were potentially going to cut him. They signed interior lineman B.J. Finney. They've cut Vince Williams, re-signed Ray McLeod III, which again they have enough wide receivers there so just another mouth to feed. And then they signed Cameron Sutton to a 2-year deal. Yeah, I'm gonna let Jay take this one over. Give us your take on the Steelers.
Yeah, so they did lose Bud Dupree, which is going to be a big loss for their pass rush. I mean, they still have T.J. Watt, who's great, but Bud Dupree was a guy who was able to alleviate some of that pressure on T.J. Watt. They also did not re-sign Juju Smith, it doesn't look like. So that's going to be an interesting note there. They threw the ball more than anybody last season. Curious to see what they do. They're also not bringing back James Conner. So for a team that was, relatively strong, they started the year 10-0, I believe, looking real 11-0. And they were looking like one of the premier teams headed into the playoffs, and then really struggled down the stretch there. A lot of big questions. They could very well be the third best team in the division, which, I mean, because Baltimore is, in my opinion, better. Cleveland is better. So, I mean, they're really only better than the Bengals, which is not really saying all that much. It's just, again, another team that you're not really sure what's going on here. They had some young playmakers around them, with Chase Claypool. You throw in Deontay Johnson, who's young, but then Ben Roethlisberger comes back. James Conner doesn't come back. You lose Bud Dupree. There's a lot of teams where you see the direction and you can see that there's a path and a light at the end of the tunnel. And then you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you look at teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, where as a fan and as an analyst, when you're trying to put the pieces together to form a story about how they can be successful going forward, there really isn't one. And these kind of free agency periods really show which teams have it buttoned up and which teams don't. Obviously, you don't win games now. You win them when the season starts. But this goes a long way to that. You sign bad contracts. You're not bringing it back from your talent, from your team that made a big difference. And you're going to lose ball games. It's gonna affect the way that you play going into the season.
Yeah, definitely, Jay. Nice take there. The San Francisco 49ers, a lot of signings here. Few re-signings of Jason Verrett on a 1-year deal. Emmanuel Mosley Mosoley. So they did have a cornerback need, so they bringing back their cornerbacks. Kyle Juszczyk, on a 5-year deal. He wants to retire with the Niners. Obviously, the big one on the top of the hour that we were talking about with Elizabeth. Trent Williams, 6 years, $138 million, best tackle in the league for free agency this year. Alex Mack was a nice addition to their team, so they did shore up some secondary and line issues that they were just rolled with a lot of injuries last year. And then they re-signed DJ Jones to 1-year contract, as well as Samson Ebukam for a 2-year deal. We probably have some questions about quarterback over here in San Francisco, with Garoppolo always being injured. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how they do next year. I don't. I like some of the signings that they made, but I don't see is it a jump forward for them or not. And then, let's bring in Andrew real quick if he wants to talk about the 49ers.
Yeah, so a couple of interesting ones. I like the people they brought back. They're all solid players and know the scheme, so that'll be good for them. They did lose Solomon Thomas, who's in talks right now to go over to Las Vegas and join the Raiders. Those people who do know the name Samson Ebukam will remember him for his Monday Night Football performance, where he strip sacked Patrick Mahomes and also had a pick six against him. They signed him for a relatively cheap deal, and he was more of a rotational guy between Leonard Floyd and I'm blanking on his name, Dante Fowler Jr. when they brought him over to play on that line with Aaron Donald. So he's a solid guy as long as he can stay healthy. The Trent Williams contract is astounding for an offensive tackle, and being 33 for him to secure that kind of money for himself, good on him. From what I understand, he took an extra $10,000 in his annual per year to just be petty and go over David Bakhtiari's contract that he just signed last season. So Trent Williams is a bit of a funny guy, but he'll probably be worth almost every penny. And I'm a big Jimmy G fan, and I know Johnny's going to talk about Jimmy G, so I'll let him take care of that. But so far, not pretty good for 49ers.
Yeah, Jimmy G's been good when he's been on the field, right? And that's always the big question with him. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that seem like that's the question now, is being healthy. Kyle Shanahan is very good when he has Jimmy G, and I think that's more of an indictment on Kyle Shanahan and his coaching with a good quarterback as opposed to his coaching without one. When you look at it, when Jimmy G has not started, and we've seen the likes of C.J. Beathard and players like that for the 49ers, he's 7-26, which is a 21% winning percentage. That is terrible, okay?
That is.
When you look at those games when Jimmy G has started, Kyle Shanahan is 22-8. That is a 73% win share. That is unbelievable. Now, again, I think Jimmy G's good. He's good for what he is. Is he amazing? No, he's not. But Kyle Shanahan is such a good offensive coach and such a gifted offensive mind that he makes Jimmy Garoppolo better. And that's the case with most people, I believe, that go into that system, which is why I'm a big believer in if New England wants Jimmy Garoppolo back, trade him and go get Sam Darnold. That's my take.
Drop the mic there, buddy. Okay, we'll move it on. The Seattle Seahawks. We have a poll up about Russell Wilson on our Twitter. But yeah, not looking like they're securing much with this team so far. Doesn't look like Chris Carson's going to resign. Carlos Dunlap was released. Josh Gordon, who hasn't played football in years, was cut. Greg Olsen, from injuries last year, might be retiring. And then Akello Witherspoon signed. I see a team here that probably needs to look at a new strategy of like games played, because they should be like offensively like stout. And then I saw some games last year from them where they were not. I know they have a lot of they need a lot of help on the offensive line, and and then their defense, their number 12 is just not as strong as it used to be. So, you guys have any takes on the?
Yeah, their offense is concerning when you see the last couple of years. They start the year hot. Russell, everyone on Twitter is begging for all the all the MVP votes, all the MVP hype, and then midseason comes and then they hit a bit of a lull. We talked about it in another previous show where their offensive rating dropped from top 10 in the league to about 27th in the league. and they weren't averaging over 200 yards passing a game, and that's something you don't want. That has a lot to do with the offensive line being a problem. And if you're going to keep Russell Wilson because you're declining trades and you're getting these monstrous offers, but you're declining these trades anyway, it kind of makes sense to go out and get a guy like Gabe Jackson, who's proved to be a sound and very, very good offensive lineman in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see who else they decide to add going forward. The Carlos Dunlap cut was interesting, but their defense, and they also lost Shaquille Griffin to Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. So.
No, that's correct.
That's true.
Yep, their defense was cheeks last year. It's not going to get any better with those guys being cut. Russell Wilson needs to be able to let cook, and Pete Carroll is more concerned about playing his prestigious defense and running the ball with Chris Carson. And I mean, has anybody so Pete Carroll came in, right? He was a very good drafter when he first came in. Why was that? Well, he was at USC, and he was able to see all these guys firsthand. So he came in his first years and balled. And ever since then, his draft picks have stinked. I mean, they got that, what's that running back, Penny? They drafted him in the first round. He's hot garbage. I mean, just being honest, he's been hurt the entire time. And when he's played, he's got no pop. It just doesn't make it. And to go back to Andrew's point about a monstrous offer, I don't think 3 firsts and a third is a monstrous offer. As I've said before, I'd give up 5 first-rounders if I was Chicago. 5 first-rounders, 2 defensive starters. Hell, I'll throw a second pick in there. I do not care. Russell Wilson is that good, and he does take some sacks. I've even been critical about him for that. You can go see episode 2, and I tell you that he took about 40% of his sacks last year were on him. But he's still Russell freaking Wilson, and he's out there getting those sacks taken because he's trying to make plays. Because guess what? He only throws the ball 30-something times a game, while these other guys are out here slinging it around the yard, and he's just as good as these other guys to go and sling it around the yard. Pete Carroll, throw the ball. Let Russ cook. You guys are a better team in the beginning of the season when you do so, and then you get conservative and scared about making a playoff spot, and you shoot yourselves in the foot. So if you're Seattle, I think Russell Wilson is better off staying there, but I think Seattle needs him, to be honest.
Who leaves first, Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson?
Pete Carroll.
I would actually like to see that. Like you said, there was a couple of moves there, a couple head scratchers from them. If I had hair, I'd pull it out if I was a Seahawks fan. Not a lot to be impressed about with Seattle. Okay, well, we can talk about the champs. We'll kind of breeze through this because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just bringing everybody back. Chris Godwin, Levante David are 2 of those names. Gronkowski, Tom Brady's re-signed to a longer contract. Shaquille Barrett. Kevin Minter, names right there, as you can see. Yeah, so they're gonna just go into next season thinking and hoping that their momentum carries on. They started off, to me, not great last season, so they hit their stride. They won the Super Bowl. We'll see if that can continue. They obviously play in a ridiculously cheeks division, so they're going to get double-digit wins without having done much. Unfortunately, they have Tom Brady, who's going to play until he's like 67. So good luck to everybody else trying to win the championship.
Brady says they're going to be better next year because they'll have an off season. They didn't really have a full off season, even though they were caught, practicing when they weren't supposed to during COVID protocols. But everything would tell you just bring the band back together and go ahead and run it back.
Yep, it's a sound strategy for the defending champs. Okay, Tennessee Titans. Got a little bit going over here. We'll just go through it quick. Traded their tackle Wilson for some draft picks, for 1 draft pick. So just to change position there in the draft. Cut Malcolm Butler, Kenny Vaccaro, Adam Humphries, third string, 4th string wide receiver for them. Adoree Jackson was kind of a surprise to see go. Tackle Dennis Kelly. They have signed Danico Autry, Bud Dupree, as we had mentioned earlier, from the Steelers. Kendall Lamb, Janoris Jenkins is a nice veteran pickup for them to replace Milton and Jackson. And then they re-signed Jason Brown, one of their linebackers on the roster. I think Jay has something to say about Adoree Jackson real quick.
That was actually going to be me real quick. Yeah, Adoree Jackson is actually on my list and I know we're talking about adding teams, but I actually want to talk about a player who might be leaving a team. Adoree Jackson is on my top 5 of free agents available. He was cut yet last night. Had he stayed on the roster today, he would have been due a $10 million roster bonus. I think that he's a really good. He's actually a very good outside corner. He struggled initially coming into the league. He was mostly used as a kick returner, but he ranks just behind guys like Jair Alexander, Richard Sherman, and Stephon Gilmore among all corners in the NFL when lined up on the outside since 2018 with an 85.6 coverage rating. I could see him being a fit back in Tennessee if they want to try and get him back, or in Jacksonville. Dallas could use his services. And no bias here, but I'd love to see him go to Kansas City. I don't know what kind of deal we could possibly offer him, but that's a good fit for him. And so Green Bay would also be a solid fit, but not much here on the Titans. They lost Corey Davis, and they're going to be they're going to be kind of running it back to a little bit differently with Ferkser instead of Jonnu Smith. But that's all I got on them.
Real quick. Yeah. 10 words or less, and then you can get your take. Does this team make the playoffs next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Sorry.
The division's terrible.
Yeah.
So.
Bad division. They could sneak in. They have a decent enough coach to help them get there.
Yeah, for sure. What were you going to say, Jay?
So they were bottom 3 in the league in sacks last year with only 19. Bringing in Denico Autry and Bud Dupree brings in 7.5 sacks from last year from Denico Autry and 8 sacks from Bud Dupree. That almost matches their total from last season. So Mike Vrabel needed to get a pass rush. Looks like he just went out and tried to buy it. So we'll see if that pays off for him.
Right on. Okay, our last team on the list, the Washington football team, bringing back Brandon Scherff on the franchise tag, re-signed Dustin Hopkins, their kicker. They let go of Alex Smith to bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, a deal that happened overnight. Cut veteran Thomas Davis Sr. and a couple of moves here. Signed Lamar Miller, which you already have 2 talented running backs on the roster, so Lamar Miller to 3rd string. Don't expect much out of him. And then signed William Jackson III, 3-year, $42 million deal. You got anything on the skill players there, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, he just slings it around, baby. Dude probably had the most fun in his NFL career last year until Tua came in and screwed that all up. But, you go ahead. You got Sims over there. You got F1 over there and Terry McLaurin. You go ahead and you have Antonio Gibson. You got LT3 with Logan Thomas. I mean, they're all of a sudden that becomes a pretty interesting offense. I think they took a look around their division. Again, Dallas has a really good offense. Ace already mentioned he kind of likes Philly's offense. I think the Giants, if they go get Kenny Golladay, can be a really interesting offense as well. So I think you just got to keep pace a little bit. Ron Rivera is a good defensive coach. That defensive line over there is outstanding. So I think that was just a move that they decided to make, try to get a little more firepower. Again, Ryan Fitzpatrick very well may not be the last move they make at quarterback. They've been linked to my boy Sam Darnold. I think I need a royalty deal for Sam Darnold for how much I've been mentioning his name in this show.
You're a Darnold stan.
Baby.
Yeah, we did not mention on the screen, but yeah, Curtis Samuel at the top of the show signed there. They did need some wide receiver help. Probably still need a little bit of line help. And maybe some secondary help, but yeah, that pretty much wraps up the teams here. We're gonna post later tonight our top 5 free agents, unless they get signed, but before we can do that, because it's kind of a free agency frenzy. Thank you guys for sticking around for an hour and 48 minutes. We do appreciate that a lot. I'm gonna just quickly run through everything for you guys one more time. We are the AJA Sports Show. You know where to find us. We love to talk. Please interact with us. We're on our phones and creating Twitter posts and Instagram posts all day for you guys and your enjoyment. And then if you're looking for a way to support us, just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, watch our videos when they show up live. It really does help us out a lot. This has been the AJA Sports Show. NFL signing crazy edition. Thank you for joining us on the AJA Airways. We will see you guys very soon. And that'll be it for us. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you, guys.